Camp. We welcome in from 24/7 Sports, Jeff Hansen, recruiting insider and all-around great man. Jeff, welcome back to BYUSN.
Appreciate you guys. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, we're feeling good. I think, like most BYU fans, a little cautiously optimistic about what to expect in 2024 because the national expectations have been so low, Jeff. I mean, when you put the win total over/under at 4.5, it's hard not to feel like, okay, are we missing something? So as you observe that, and BYU picked to finish 13th in the Big 12, what makes you most hopeful that BYU can overachieve those nationally low expectations?
You know, you have to look at what makes up those expectations, right? It's looking back at last year's stats and then trying to project what it means for this year. Last year's stats were abysmal. I mean, across the board, they just were. But I think that if you look at what Kalani and the coaching staff did, especially on offense, I think that you can see pretty clearly what they diagnosed the problem to be. And it was, hey, the offensive line. That's the issue, right? We can fix that offensive line. That fixes the run game. That opens up the pass game. I don't think that there was panic from the coaching staff. And that's kind of been my North Star throughout the offseason. If the coaching staff thought that this group was as bad as the national prognostications would have you believe, they would have pushed a lot more guys to the portal, right? They would have brought more guys out of the portal, and you would have seen more panic on the recruiting trail. This tells me that the coaching staff believes, now maybe they're wrong, right? But this tells me that the coaching staff believes this is more of just, you've got to configure a few things, right? We don't have to rewrite the code. We just have to make a few configuration changes, make a few tweaks, and then this thing gets back on the right track. I'm putting a lot of faith and trust in the coaching staff, but their actions spoke calmly to me. Like, they're not panicking. And for that reason, I think BYU is in a better situation than maybe what the stats and what the numbers would have you believe right now.
No panic buying at quarterback. They're going with Jake Retzlaff and Gary Bohannon, who comes in from the transfer portal, didn't play last year because of injury. They've got to be pretty happy with these two guys. We've heard great things in their development over the summer. But the fact that they didn't go out after spring and buy somebody else speaks volumes at the quarterback spot, which everybody is watching as they go into this fall battle.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback is it, right? That's what BYU football has always been about. I'm cautiously optimistic as well. I think we saw enough from Gary out of spring ball that while it wasn't fantastic by the end of spring ball, I think we saw that, hey, look, this guy, he can still play. He can still throw. He can still do what he needs to do. He's just rusty. And shaking off rust, well, that's something that BYU knows all about, right? I mean, it's kind of like you're working a guy off of a mission again. You've got to get him back into shape, get him comfortable. But that's an entirely different conversation than this guy's not very good, and you got to hope that he gets better really quickly. So I think that's a big win for Gary. And then I look at Jake. If we really take the context and put it where it needs to be, he wasn't getting, I don't even think he was getting a full slate of QB2 reps throughout the offseason last year because Keaton Slovis needed so many reps to get up to speed himself, right? So this is a guy that, while I think he was a sophomore on the books, he was a rookie at college football at the FBS level. He had to take his lumps, and there were a lot of lumps. That was brutal for that 4-game stretch in November. But guys can get better. John Beck was pretty terrible in his first 4 games, too. That turned out okay for John Beck. I don't think Jake Retzlaff is John Beck, but guys get better. Guys get better with experience. Jake's got some of that. Gary's got a bunch of that. I think there's a lot of reason to feel optimistic that one of those guys steps up. And if not, man, McKay Hillstead is my guy. He's a dog. I think he's a real contender. If there are struggles, he could take over this offense and never look back.
Jeff Hansen of 24/7 Sports is on BYU Sports Nation. I know you're probably asked every day because I'm asked every day when I'm out and about, and BYU fans, they want to know, all right, Spencer, who's really going to start at quarterback? You just outlined the advantages that all of those guys have. Jake has been in the program longer. He knows the verbiage. He knows the playbook. He's been around Aaron Roderick longer. So, yes, he's the incumbent by definition, but in comes Gary Bohannon, who is battle-tested, and he is the proven commodity, assuming he's actually healthy and his shoulder is okay. Who would you lean toward? Maybe this is a 51% for one guy, 49% for the other guy, Jeff, but who are you leaning toward in an election year, no less, to be the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I've said it's Jake for the last few months, and I think that's true. But coming out of the last few weeks, some of the things we've heard out of the player run workouts and the guys that I've talked to, Gary's arm looks really, really lively over the last few weeks. If Gary can show really early on that he's healthy, it's 100% behind him, he's ready to roll, I think I'm flip-flopping, and I think Gary Bohannon ends up being the guy in week 1. If there is any residual rust at all, I think Aaron Roderick, Kalani Stockett, his coaching staff will let Gary continue to heal and work his way back in slowly, and Jake Retzlaff ends up getting the nod in week 1.
It's kind of like the popular vote is the players and the electoral vote is the staff, right?
Exactly right.
You know, Max Hall was telling us the other night when it comes to who's going to make this decision, he said, keep your eye on the players. He goes, I always watch the players. How do they respond to whoever is playing quarterback? Who's in the huddle? How do the receivers respond? How do the linemen respond? He goes, that will have more to do with a decision than who had the most completions during practice. And I thought that was interesting. And I agree with you. At 6'3", 235, when healthy, that's a tough beast to sit on the sideline in an offense that's struggling to kind of find itself. But outside of this quarterback battle, what's the storyline that you'll be looking for the most in fall camp?
It's the offensive line. I think it has to be. I mean, TJ Woods is kind of the star of the show right now. There's questions about, LJ Martin's health and the running game and which wide receivers are going to step up. All of that is white noise if the offensive line cannot play better than they did a year ago. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Coach Woods has done with this group. When you look at Coach Woods' history, his resume, when he's had a high level of talent, whether that be at Oregon State, Utah State, Wisconsin, wherever it was, when he has talent to work with, he has produced elite level results. And I don't use that word lightly, elite level results at all of those stops. When he hasn't had talent to work with, that's when the rushing numbers have started, that's, I guess, staggered at that point. I think he's got a good amount of talent in the room right now. The biggest battle for me is that right tackle spot. Caleb Etienne versus Isaiah Jada and whoever else is there. Jake Griffin might be in the mix as well. Whoever wins that job is really going to be what kind of makes or breaks everybody's confidence. If somebody can step up and play really well in those first couple of games of the season and make everybody feel good about the right tackle spot, then I think this offensive line is going to do very, very good things this year. There's just too much talent to not do well, especially with Coach Woods and his pedigree and what he's done throughout his career.
He's a recruiting insider, a football insider for 24/7 Sports, specifically in the BYU realm. Jeff Hansen is on BYU Sports Nation. We've been discussing the landmark number of 1,000 yards for a running back or a receiver. There's multiple layers to this question, but you can break it down however you'd like, Jeff. Do you feel like for BYU to have a successful season, and only you in your own mind can define what success is with the Big 12 schedule and everything that plays into it, but for the Cougars to have a successful season, do you feel like they need to have 1,000-yard guys somewhere on the roster?
That's a really good question, and I think you have to break it down. And what does the 1,000-yard guy represent, right? A 1,000-yard guy is a Jamal Williams that when you need 3 yards, you're giving the ball to Jamal. When you need that big play, you're going to throw to Cody Hoffman. That's what that 1,000-yard guy is. BYU needs to know what their bread and butter is. I don't know that inherently has to be a 1,000-yard type guy. And many times it is because that guy's really, really good, and that's where you go when you need to make a play. But if BYU can find consistency in other places, and now I'm looking specifically in the short passing game and the wide receivers. So let's get into our hot tub time machine, go back to 1996. Somebody can fact check me, but they played a whole bunch of games, and I don't think anybody got to 1,000 yards. I think Brian McKenzie was pretty close.
Yep.
KO was probably close as a receiver, but I don't think anybody got there. But their bread and butter was Sark, that short passing game, timing routes. Whenever they needed, a 3rd and 3, they knew where they were going. They were going to go to the air. It was going to be Sarkisian. It was going to be a quick timing route, and they were going to get the first down. BYU's got to find something this year, whether that is LJ Martin and it's a 1,000-yard receiver, or whether that's the slant game, the bubble screen game with Cody Epps and Keelan Marion or Parker Kingston on jet sweep. Whatever it is, they've got to find their bread and butter. And I think we tend to conflate that with, hey, it's got to be a 1,000-yard guy. I don't know that it has to be, but they've got to find something that when they need a play, they can turn to, that they can execute really, really well at a high level every single time and know that they're going to be effective, something that's going to instill a bunch of confidence in the huddle when that play is called. Jamal Williams, Tyler Algier, those guys bring confidence. When they're given the ball, everybody knows, hey, something good is about to happen. They've got to find that, whatever that is. And if that's a 1,000-yard guy, great, but I don't think it necessarily has to be.
Well, speaking of finding things, let's look in your crystal ball to 2025 and BYU's recruiting class, and how do you see that coming together?
You know, I really like the recruiting class so far. It's a little bit, I don't want to say unfortunate because that's the wrong word, but basketball has just completely reset what everybody's expectations of recruiting should be. And so, yeah, when KY's doing his thing and they're pulling in lottery picks, well, yeah, football's not at that level. I think there's some reasons for that. I mean, it's easier to convince an NBA guy to come and live the honor code for 6 months than a football guy to do it for 3 years. So there's reasons, right? Yeah. But if we take away the basketball aspect of it and we look at just football and where football has been, it's much better than where football has been. I think there's 15 guys committed right now. And as I might have to fact check myself, I think 11 of those 15 guys have power offers from other schools right now.
Okay.
That's way better than BYU has done in years past. That's considerably better. I look at some of their developmental guys, right? I mean, we had this conversation for years when BYU would bring in some of their developmental guys as, hey, is BYU a developmental school or are they a talent school? And, 5 years ago, it had to be developmental. Right now, they're bringing in developmental guys who also have a bunch of talent. I look at a guy like Andrew Williams. He's a left tackle. He's out of Kansas. Every D1 college that he played in front of this summer very quickly offered. That was Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State, and BYU. Plays at a little tiny school. He's raw. He's a developmental player. But he's a developmental player who could have played Big 12 football with or without BYU.
Sure.
That wasn't the case a few years ago. And hey, I just think across the board, it's getting better.
We love to hear it. Jeff, we appreciate your insight and the knowledge that you put in. You spent a lot of time doing this, so thanks for sharing it with BYU Sports Nation. Can't wait for football to start. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Jeff Hansen of 24/7 Sports.